Next, we get Elizabeth in a strange sit-down interview with a person called Rona Barrett. She was apparently a gossip columnist of the time. She tells Liz that she is stunning compared to some of the big Hollywood stars of the day and the people that she's interviewed in the past. Liz says that she's not been around because she doesn't want to disappoint her fans, but she says that she's thought a lot about returning to ringside. Very strange this was.
It was, and I think really creepy the way Rona kept going on about Liz's beauty. And I do realise that might be the most pot and kettle moment in the history of podcasting. Because sometimes when I've heard myself talking about Elizabeth, I realise that the creep factor has turned up to 100. But yes, it was very odd.
In fairness to you, Stephen, WWF didn't really give you anything else to talk about when it came to Elizabeth, did they? Because she didn't do anything else. She just stood there and looked attractive. That's it.
And a bit sad sometimes.
This is why I've never understood Elizabeth. I've never got it. I mean.
Have you seen the Rocky films?
Yes.
It's Adrian, isn't it?
I think the thing was that it was a simpler time and women didn't have much of a role in wrestling at the time. The only role they had, in fairness, the women's wrestlers in the main tended to be older, certainly in the WWF. And I guess this was just more of the sort of sexism and misogyny of the time, tended to perhaps not flatter them, the women, where I guess they were kind of like, well, if you're a wrestler, you must not have any beauty, I guess, is kind of the way they treated them a little. Maybe a little bit less when Wendy Richter was around, but in the main, they weren't really given that kind of, you could either be a brutish woman or attractive. You couldn't be both. And because there was not a general role for women in wrestling, Elizabeth being a manager in particular stood out and was really different. And also there was this purity of her. They built this kind of aura around her, around the idea that she was kind of innocent compared to everything else that was going on around her, which I think is quite, it's not particularly savoury thing in general, but I think actually it worked a treat through these years because people genuinely cared for her because they saw her as this kind of naive, innocent kind of person that was there and was kind of being almost corrupted, but almost was impervious to that corruption, if you like, by the men in her life. It's a difficult one and it's a strange one, and I don't think it's something you could see now because it's a much more, women are given much more scope for performance and whatnot, whereas at the time, as I say, that you couldn't really be more than one thing at once. So after that, we get some footage of the Royal Rumble with Brother Love and Savage confronting Sapphire, Dusty Rhodes arriving and fighting with Savage, then wrestling challenge with Sapphire saving Dusty from a 2-on-1 attack by Savage and Sherri. We then get a backstage promo where Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire with Sean Mooney. Rhodes says you won't see them pretending to be king and queen. He says they're missing the crown jewel, to which Mooney looks confused.
Sapphire said, "They ain't no king and queen no more," which may be the worst sentence ever uttered in the English language.
So we move on to the mixed tag team match, Randy Savage and Queen Sherri against Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire, a match that lasts just under 8 minutes. This one ends when basically Liz throws Sherri into the ring to a big pop. Sherri then goes for Liz. She hits Sherri and Sapphire rolls her up for the pin. Matt.
That face. I wish the listeners could see that face when you pulled that face you just pulled, Matt.
Oh man, this was a hard watch. This was no good. I don't know where to start. I mean, okay, I was interested in the only sort of interesting thing that I thought about it. Apparently this was the first ever mixed tag team match. Apparently, that I thought was an interesting fact. Other than that, with the exception of the Dusty Rhodes theme tune, which I do think is one of the best wrestling theme tunes there's ever been, this was just a gigantic letdown. I can't even say I had that much of an expectation for it, really. But so like I said earlier in the show as well, some of the stuff that Jesse was saying, particularly about Sapphire, some of the he was commenting on her weight at the start. And like the one comment that immediately stuck out to me, has Sapphire ever heard of Slim Fast? I was like, that's a good start. And they were mentioning about like her hips later and like her legs. I was like, man, just
Gorilla was on it as well. He talked about her bulking up as well. They were both bad here.
Yeah. It was like, guys, just leave it. But like I said, the commentary that didn't help. But it wasn't a dynamic that worked very well. I think I don't know nearly enough about Sapphire. I don't know if she's had any other matches or anything like that. I don't even know if she's an actual wrestler. Based on this, I'm saying hell no, because she was bloody awful. Dusty is quite charismatic, so it was interesting to be able to see him. And Savage did his very best to try try and make something out of it. And probably what I thought was one of the most interesting things he did, which wasn't even like a move to an opponent or anything to get the crowd. The way he sort of slingshotted out of the ring over the top rope to get to the floor, he did that twice, and I just thought that was the coolest thing I'd seen him do. Just how athletic and quick it was. That was interesting. But otherwise, you just nobody cared about it. I say nobody cared about it. That's a lie. I didn't care about it. The crowd definitely did. They were into Liz as well, who again, like I said, I don't get it, but the people do, and they certainly loved her then, and some still do. But it was just a bad match, and the women didn't work well together. It was a bloody train wreck. Big thumbs down.
Yeah, I did mean to say as well that before the match, Dusty gets on the microphone and says he's got something for you tonight. He says that he's got the crown jewel, the First Lady of Professional Wrestling, Elizabeth, and she comes out to a big pop to join Sapphire and Dusty before the match. Stephen, I've left you to second here because I know that obviously this is, where you live and breathe, basically, Savage and Elizabeth, their latest chapter in their epic story.
Yeah, I think I could watch Randy Savage wrestling entrances for 12 hours and not get bored. However, I am going to be negative about Elizabeth for once. What is she doing here? She's rubbing the salt in the wound. Just leave Randy alone, or at least for 12 months. What are you doing, Elizabeth? And as you said, the crowd ate it up. There's a lovely sign in the front row on that old computer papers, which probably took about 4 hours to print this, that read King of Geeks. And I bet whoever that was about was devastated by this. I thought Sapphire's offense was second worst in the history of WrestleMania, with Shane McMahon slightly worse than her. Jesse said the finish stunk, and as much as it hurts me to pour scorn anything with my beloved Macho Man, or Macho King in this case, I didn't think it's worked on any level. And no, I never ever want to see Elizabeth dance again unless it's in my arms with a Boyz II Men song in the background during a lovely 4 a.m. dream. But no, this was a terrible WrestleMania match.
I'm glad you added the word dream at the end of all that, because that would involve some very strange lifestyle choices if that was going to happen now.
Yes, I'm not even going to comment on that, because anything I say will just dig me back into a creepy hole.
I don't know if this didn't work on any level, Stephen. I mean, if you say the crowd really did eat it up.
Oh, I know.
They did like it. They were into it all the way. And I mean, power of the whole Miss Elizabeth Randy Savage dynamic basically is what's going on here, what carries this. Because I thought that Dusty was actually not that popular here. He didn't seem to get any kind of crowd reaction. Sapphire got loads of reaction to what she was doing, but Dusty just didn't really seem to elicit anything, which is not in keeping with my experience of seeing Dusty in the WWF. I feel like he was actually very popular during that run, but here he just didn't seem to get any of the reaction. Wonder if it's the Canadian crowd. That might sound a bit strange, but it wasn't a traditional NWA place necessarily.
They would have had, I'm pretty sure they had no access to whatever it was, NWA at the time. And in fact, even WCW Nitro era, they had bad access to it. So it wasn't until much later that WCW was a thing in Canada. So I think you're probably absolutely right, Ben.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I've always felt like this is a waste. Like, surely Randy Savage Dusty Rhodes singles match is just do that. Just do that. Don't worry about the women. I guess the women gave them a first, if you like. Well, I'm not sure if of the exact veracity of the claim that it's the first mixed tag match. It may be the first one in WWF, but I don't even know the veracity of that, to be honest with you. But certainly it was different at the time, and I'm sure that's what they were going for. This is just a different attraction, mixed tag match. I agree with you, Matt. I hated Ventura's commentary during this one, and Gorilla's wasn't much better. And to be honest, there was that theme throughout. Ventura in particular was taking umbrage with the bigger people. I think later on in the show he gets very on his high horse about someone else who's really big as well. And I just was a bit like, what's going on here?
Gorilla, isn't it? Because he talks about Gorilla and the hot dogs.
That's true, yeah.
So actually the first time he talks about the hot dogs was actually, the first hot dog was quite funny. So he was more talking about Gorilla had it all over his face. So he was more like you've scoffed that down kind of thing. Yeah. But then what happened later is he kept going there, and Gorilla lost. I can't remember where it is it's in my notes somewhere, but Gorilla lost it with him, and there was like a really uncomfortable few seconds, and because he was just pressing that button. And I think he must have known he was out here, or the negotiations were going really badly, or whatever it was, because he was asking for royalties from their VHSs, wasn't he? Is what the thing that broke the relationship. So I wonder if he thought, well, I'm just going to say what I want on this, and some of it was a bit mean spirited, to be fair, actually, in hindsight.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that I was left with at the end of this match is Monsoon's commentary, where he's talking about Liz, who's dancing with Sapphire and Dusty, which obviously was a bit awkward. And Monsoon says, "I've never seen her this happy," and I thought that's quite telling.